How could you be sentenced and given extra time for a crime that you were acquitted of, found not guilty by a jury of your peers? Yet the judge can say, I don't care what the jury said. I think you were guilty, and therefore I'm going to add more time. Is that right? Is that how our system should work? Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody's doing well. All is good and blessed on this end. Praise God for that. And today I'm going to do something a little bit differently, and it's based upon an article that I've read recently that was kind of disturbing to me. And I want to set this up in a way. You know, what's important in our criminal justice system is that there's fairness, is that it's equal justice for all under the law. Fairness. And in today's system, we just don't have that. Not at all. And I think you're seeing what's going on, that people are getting preferential treatment. Some people in government are not prosecuted, are not even investigated when they should be. I think we can see that. I don't have to go, crazy pointing it out to you. I think you see what's happening in the streets. I think you see what's happening with these progressive district attorneys and progressive law enforcement people. You know what's going on with defund police. You know that murder rates are up all over the country, that, theft is up all over the country, that so much is going wrong right now. We understand that. And basically, there's just really a lack of fairness in the system. And I think it's something that has to be done about it, no doubt about it. And so I read this article and it gets me kind of upset. Now let me set this up. I don't want to be known as a Mafia or Cosa Nostra apologist. I am not. But I want to tell the truth about it. And I've said this before. When I walked away from the life, I didn't walk away because I was mad at anybody. I didn't walk away to get even with anybody. I didn't walk away out of bitterness and anger. I walked away from that life because I knew the life was in trouble and I wanted to preserve a life for my wife and children. That was it. Bottom line. I knew it was in trouble. That was it. So I didn't hold any grudges. I didn't have any vendetta against anybody. I just thought for self-preservation, for the preservation of my family, it's something that had to be done. Now, you've heard me say in the past that Mafia, Cosa Nostra, gang life, they're evil lifestyles. And until this moment, I believe that. I don't call the men evil. I don't call the participants, the members evil. I'm not going to do that. But the lifestyle is evil. Why? Because I don't know any family of any member of that life that hasn't been totally devastated. And any lifestyle that will do that to a family, to friends, is basically evil. And I believe that. So I'm not apologizing for Cosa Nostra. I'm not apologizing for Mafia. But there is a different set of rules and a different system of justice for guys involved in Cosa Nostra, Mafia, than there are for normal people. That's just the way it is. It's the truth. You can't get around it. I'm going to prove it to you. Other people know it. I've experienced it, not only through my father's situation, but through my own. I get it. And the times I was prosecuted, yeah, okay, come after me, I get it. But the laws that they use to come after us, I think they're unconstitutional. I think the RICO Act should have never been, put on the criminal statute. That's what I believe. But let me read some of this article that caught my attention the other day. Maybe you'll understand where I'm coming from. And it was written by a fellow by the name of Matthew J. Mary. And what it says is, too many have died in federal prisons. In 1967, President Johnson's Commission on Organized Crime declared that organized crime must be wiped off the face of the earth at all costs. Now, let me say this. Organized crime, is that only Mafia? What about the cartels? What about the gangs on the street? What about all of this? When we take that oath, Halloween night, 1975, I took an oath, a blood oath. That was the oath of omerta. And you know what that oath said? What omerta means? It means silence. Never betray your brothers. Never betray the oath. It's not an oath that says you got to kill people. It's not an oath that says you got to be a criminal. It's not an oath that says you got to rob, steal, extort, baseball bat people. That's not what it says. It's an oath of silence. You never admit that Cosa Nostra, Mafia really exist. That's the oath. That's it. But now, let me make it clear. As part of that life, do we get involved in crime? Yes, we do. No doubt about it. I'm not an apologist for guys that get involved in that, myself included. I was a criminal, no doubt about it, for many, many years. Okay, but the oath does not require us to say that we're going to be a murderer and a thief and an extortionist and all of that. It requires us to never betray our brothers and never betray the fact that that life even exists. That's what it's all about. Now, I'm saying that for a reason. I'll get to my point on that. Let me continue. The cost has been great, but the biggest has been the loss of the integrity of our federal criminal justice system and its constitutional values. That's because the federal government has opted to not only prosecute so-called members of the Mafia or Cosa Nostra, but to make sure that they die in jail. Not because of the crimes, but because the government is relentless in accomplishing those 1967 goals. In other words, President Johnson had this commission and he said that we have to stamp out organized crime. But it seems it only pertains to the Mafia and Cosa Nostra. We're not the only organized criminal organization in this country. But not only do they prosecute and go after, they want us to die in jail. And that's the truth. They want us to die in jail. Suppose members of organized crime are not only investigated differently from other criminals, and that's the truth. You know why? In organized crime, you don't get investigated for a crime that took place. Normally, when there's a crime that took place, law enforcement goes out and investigates the crime and sees who the perpetrators were. They do an investigation. In organized crime, they investigate the person first and hope to find out what crime they're committing. They do it in reverse. You're always under investigation. I was under investigation for 20 some odd years. They didn't even know what they were investigating me for. They were just trying to find out and uncover. And that's what they do with most everybody. They investigate people and hope that they find a crime that they commit. And you know what? In many cases, if they don't find that crime, they're going to create it. And that's the truth. Supposed members of organized crime are not only investigated differently from other criminals, their trials are different and one-sided, and the sentences they receive are often longer than they deserve, with the result being that so many so-called members of traditional organized crime die in prisons that are euphemistically called federal medical centers. That's the problem. Whenever a guy involved in Mafia, Cosa Nostra goes to jail, they want him to die in jail, regardless of what the criminal activity is. They want to make sure, and they've created the RICO statute and the sentences that accompany that for the express purpose of having these people die in jail. I mean, that's a vendetta. That really is. To accomplish these goals, the government uses the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, and what I call, this gentleman is calling, the rat system of justice. The RICO Act enables federal prosecutors to bring defendants to trial not one case at a time, which is traditional in all 50 states. RICO allows them to combine numerous crimes, which often have no connection to each other, and group numerous defendants together, even though they may not even know each other, into one racketeering indictment. When I was indicted by Giuliani in 1986, there were 16 of us. Out of the 16, I knew 7. I didn't know the other 8. Didn't even know who they were. But they lumped them into this. My co-defendants, I didn't know who they were. We had to meet the day the trial started. That's when we found out who each other was. We met the day we got arraigned, indicted, arraigned, and we were put in one courtroom at the same time. That's when we all met one another. Now, how do you go on trial with people you don't know? The RICO Act allows you to do that. Let me continue. It's no secret to many people that the deck is stacked in the government's favor in RICO cases. Prosecutors arrange that by alleging that the defendants belong to a group, a crime family, that is a criminal enterprise. And remember this, while it is not a crime to belong to any organization, the RICO law eases the rules of evidence for the government so much that virtually anyone can be established to be an affiliate of a criminal enterprise, that the conviction rate in these cases is over 96%. Conviction rate in a RICO case is over 96%. You know why? They're extremely hard to defend, and they're extremely expensive to defend. And most of the time, you're not going to win with a court-appointed lawyer. And contrary to what everybody believes, it costs millions of dollars to defend yourself in a major racketeering case, and not everybody on the street has that kind of money, not even close to it. So it's very difficult to defend. The government knows this. The RICO statute was created with all of this in mind to give the government the absolute advantage in every racketeering trial. It's rare, extremely rare, when somebody can beat one of these cases. When I beat it, it was like, heaven on earth to beat that case. Trust me. Let me continue. If that weren't bad enough, judges are allowed to sentence these defendants not only based on their convictions, but also for what they have been acquitted at trial. In other words, a judge can consider that even if a defendant was acquitted at trial and the judge doesn't believe it, he can sentence him for that. A jury found him innocent, but the judge says, well, I don't think he was innocent. He's not even related to that case. He just has the information in front of him, and he can add on to the sentence because of that. Is that fair? How could you be sentenced and given extra time for a crime that you were acquitted of, found not guilty by a jury of your peers? Yet the judge can say, I don't care what the jury said. I think you were guilty, and therefore I'm going to add more time. Is that right? Is that how our system should work? The cases of Edmund Eddie Boyle and Frank Guerrera come to mind. Prosecutors can also ask the judge to consider crimes the defendant has not even been charged with, but only suspected of by the government. All right, so let me repeat this for those of you that may not understand. A defendant now is in front of the judge. He's been convicted in a racketeering case, okay? The judge is about to sentence him. He has information in front of him, and that information says, even though this defendant was acquitted at trial by a jury of his peers, found not guilty, the judge may say, I don't believe what that jury is saying. I'm going to add more time onto the sentence anyway. And then he can take it a step further. If the government says that this defendant, we believe that this defendant, is guilty of something else, but hasn't even been charged, hasn't been brought to court, the judge can consider that too. So he can consider a case that he's been acquitted of and a case that he hasn't even been charged in because the government said so. That's what they do against organized crime, guys. They don't do that to anyone else. Is that fair? You make up your mind. I don't think it's fair. All right, now understand this. Again, I'm not saying that organized crime is good. I'm not saying that, the Mafia is good and Cosa Nostra is good. I've never said that. I don't glorify the life, but what's fair is fair. These are human beings also. When the CARES Act came around, people were being released, left and right. You know that in the last couple of years as a result of COVID. Did mob guys get released? No. Carmine Persico, elderly, he did 32 years in jail. 32 years. He was in his 80s, very sickly. His lawyers had brought so many motions to the court to have him released. Every one of them was denied. He died in prison. Let's go back to my father. My father did 40 years in prison. He was 100 years old. He only had several months left to go on that sentence. We put in for a compassionate release. He was sick, denied. After 40 years, at 100 years old, denied. I'll give you some others. Fat Tony Salerno died in prison in his 80s. Chin Gigante died in prison. All these guys died in prison after doing 30, 35 years. Why not let them out to be home with their families? Remember this too, okay? And I'm probably going to get, beat up for this on the comments, but I'm going to say it anyway. These guys are not out in the street robbing stores. They're not going into the homes doing home invasions. They're not affecting people on the street like you think they are because you've heard this in the media and people are saying all this kind of stuff. I know I never did that. And all the guys around me that I know never did that. And you know what? We hated people that did home invasions. When we heard about it, it was terrible for us. We don't do that. We don't go into somebody's house and affect, innocent people. That's not something we did. We're not going into the stores and stealing. We're not going into businesses on the streets and rioting and breaking down, windows and going in and stealing all merchandise in there. We didn't do that kind of stuff. But the people that are doing that now, they're getting off easy. But yet guys that have done 30, 35 years in prison are old and sick, can't even get a compassionate release to go home and die with their families. You think that's right? I don't. So basically what I'm saying, in today's climate, where I think, 2 years ago we had 576 riots in this country where businesses were broken into, people were killed, merchandise was stolen out of stores, people were beat up and hurt. Nothing happened to these people for the most part. We got to be honest. Nothing happened. They got a pass. Today's environment is different. People commit a crime, subway crimes that are going on in New York. They come out with no bail the next day. They're injuring people. They're going after them. Now, I'm not justifying what was done in organized crime, but I'm saying, hey, give these guys a break. There's 3 or 4 guys that I know right now. Jimmy Coonan, Vic Amuso, a bunch of guys. They're in their 70s and 80s, have done a ton of time, 30, 35, 40 years. They're not going to come out and go back into criminal activity. They're going to go home and relax, try to be with their family and live out their years. But they can't get a compassionate release. All I'm saying is the justice system, it's not fair. It's not fair, and I have to say this one more time because it's on my chest. I have to say it. You know, I just found out again. I talked to the Border Patrol's agents in Texas. Recently, they told me, and I think it was in the newspaper also, that they confiscated enough fentanyl coming over the border to kill 222 million Americans. 222 million Americans. That's what they confiscated, and I'll never forget them telling me that they're only getting 10% of the illegal drugs that are coming over the border. And yet, what do we have? We have an immigration crisis. People are coming over the border left and right, and they are bringing drugs. And what's happening? We know this. It's in the newspaper. It's in the media, I should say. They're being dispersed to different cities around the country in the middle of the night. We don't know what these people have. They're smuggling drugs. They're doing a lot of stuff. Why is this being allowed? You know, I've said this. Everything that's legal is not always moral. Now, because the government says now it's legal to have these immigrants come over the border, it's not really moral if they're bringing over drugs that are killing people. I just heard recently, 13-year-old boy killed a fentanyl overdose. 2 other kids in high school, collapsed from fentanyl overdoses. You know what happened? They went to one of these kids' bedrooms and they found 40 bags of fentanyl in a kid. He was 14 years old. The other one, they went to the school and they found 100 bags in his locker. A fentanyl, where's it coming from? It's coming over the border. It's allowed to come over the border. What's going on here? We have to get some balance in our criminal justice system, people. What's going on is just not right. And again, I'm not an apologist right now for organized crime, guys. I'm just telling the truth. We need a fair and balanced system of government. That's it. Hopefully I made my point. And, if things are going to change, I don't know. We got a crazy time that we're living in. But what's the answer? I say it all the time. Hold our public officials accountable. Hold them. We have power in numbers. We have power in the voting booth. We got to vote the right people in that will do the right job for America, for all of its citizens. And right now, I'm sorry, just not happening. And I'm not saying anything out of turn. I think most of you know what's going on. So, hey, we pray that it can turn around. We hope that it can turn around, but we have the power to make it turn around. All right, people, I know I get a little emotional when it comes to this because, again, to me, it's all about fairness and fairness and fairness. But on a lighter note, I got something very exciting to share with all of you, and it's coming in a week, one more week, and I'm going to bring it to you right now. I don't know if you can see that, but it's my own brand of wine, Michael Franzese wine, something we've been working on for a year. Very, very excited about it. We got a couple of different blends that are going to be coming. We got another one here. Okay, I know you're going to enjoy it. And in the next week, you're going to watch for it. We're doing a huge giveaway for all of you. And I hope that at some point in time, every one of you have a bottle of Michael Franzese wine in your wine cabinet. I'm very excited about it. And I believe all of you will be too. So watch for the giveaway. We're going to give away a lot of things, just as an introduction to the wine. So hope you're paying attention. Watch in the next week or so. You'll see it. So that's it for today. MichaelFranzese.com. My inner circle is growing in leaps and bounds, and we're doing just a wonderful job creating content for them. Everybody's enjoying the community. Jump on board. I know you're going to love it, especially coming out of this pandemic. And it looks like we are coming out of this pandemic. Finally, praise God. What else? I think that's it for today. Do I have anything else? Oh, subscribe. Come on. You're building us. Thanks to you. You love the content. Subscribe. Show us how much you care. And thanks a lot for that because you have a lot of choices. We appreciate those that tune into ours. So that's it for today. How do I always leave you? Same way. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless all of you. And yep, I will see you next time. Take care.